Well, hello everybody and welcome back. If you've seen my videos before and my yarns before, welcome back. If you're new to my yarns and these conversations, welcome. I'm glad you could join us. My name is Leith Dewis and I predominantly talk about the Aboriginal Torres Strait culture and our history, protocols, etc. And there's other videos here somewhere that you could look at other videos. And today is a very special one. We'll be talking about yarning circles and the power and strength and magic of yarning circles. Just before I start, this little poster you'll see up here, it actually says Queensland. Our youngest daughter did a poster with Queensland, and there's a few of them around because we're in the midst of having our state of origin, which is our rugby league, where Queensland versus New South Wales. Being proud Queenslanders up here in Queensland, we want our team to win. So our youngest daughter put these posts up as motivation for us to cheer on our team, and hopefully they're going to get up later on this week and win the series again. So yarning circles, there's a lot of conversation and rhetoric and discussion around whether they're, how real are they, how genuine are they actual cultural practices, or are they made up, or whatever. But yarning circles have existed for many, many, many generations. I'm not an anthropologist, so I don't know how many. I'm only talking about my own lived experience, and I know it's been around for a long, long time when it comes to my family, my community, etc. And the yarning circles happen in both the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. That's the one thing, we have a lot in common, and it's one of the things that we have in common with both cultures. And it's wonderful that I've experienced it being of both Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander heritage, that I've seen it in both my sides of my family. So yarning circles are very, very important to Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people. They're places, they're sacred places, they're special places. They're places that can be formal and informal. They're places where decisions are made, everything is discussed. It's a place of healing. It's a place of truth-telling. It's a place of learning. And like I said, they can happen organically, and I'll talk a bit about that later. And so the yarning circles. Now, the reason why it's a circle is because in a circle, everyone is equal. Everyone is the same. There is no one better than anyone else. There is no one who is in charge or anything like that. That it is a circle of equals. And so, we find it very strange in our culture that we would go to a psychologist or psychiatrist or counselor, whatever they are, and sit one-on-one with a total stranger who might have a certificate on the wall about their qualifications, and they've learned stuff in the textbooks, and now they want us to share our personal life and story to them so they can assess how they're going to help us in some way, shape or form. So we find that very, very odd. In our yarning circles, it works a little bit different, and that's why we have them. And I'll talk about the men's experience because I'm not a woman. I don't know what our sisters do, and that's sacred to them. So in a yarning circle for men, for example, is that we might have a get together and have a yarning circle that you'll have a group of men that want to be there because they need to change something that's happening in their life, and you get those who are told by their partner or their family and kids, like, no, you're going to go because you need help. So what happens in the yarning circles is that everyone, starts to share things. And in a short period of time, you realise that you're not unique, that you're not the only one, for example, has anger issues. Everyone in that circle has them, and that's why you're there. And you'll hear someone share their lived experience and their truth, and all of a sudden you realise that's your truth, that's your story, and you'll identify and you'll pipe up and say, yeah, brother, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm exactly the same. And that's where that magic happens, where our ancestors are present. Our soul becomes present. Our spirit connects back with us, our physical body. And we do go in and we dig deep inside us and reveal all those, the pain. It can be painful. So we're revealing all the pain and suffering and everything about our life openly. And, it's something that you can't control because of the spirit that's in that circle and the energy that's in that circle and the vibrations that are in that circle. And so someone will be sharing stuff, you'll identify with it and you pipe up and, everyone starts sharing. And then the dialogue starts, the connection starts. you'll always have one in that group where they've been told they have to be there. They don't want to be there. So they're a staunch brother, they got their arms folded, legs crossed, the arms folded, don't want to be there, very, very silent, very, very quiet, just observing everyone. I guess sitting there seeing who's got all the BS in the circle, sizing everyone up. And then you'll see as time goes by, the arms become uncrossed. They're still a bit fidgety. The arms come down, they straighten up. And then all of a sudden, they'll say something. And bang, that's when the magic happens. Is that when they had that first spoken word is when their ancestors flood them. Their spirit, boom, their soul floods them. And they reveal themselves. And it can be emotional, powerful, courageous, all that sort of stuff. And so they start to share it too, their experience. Now, it's not just about sharing and having a whinge and carry on about how bad life is for us and feeling sorry for ourselves. What happens automatically and organically in those yarning circles and those healing circles is that we all come up with solutions. People start talking about, maybe it would have been better if I would have done it this way. And everyone says, I think that's a deadly idea, brother. I think I have to do that too, cuz. And everyone starts to share stuff, and you actually come up with your own solution without anyone talking at you or talking to you. We're in a circle, and it's not like, in the mainstream system that when they want to teach you something or show you something or whatever, you're in an auditorium. You've got seats and you've got the guest speaker or the presenter out the front that's talking at you. Yarning circles takes all that away. And that we start to share information, we start to share ideas and come up with solutions and ways of improving our lives, especially for not only ourselves, but for our family who are usually at the short end of the stick when it comes to us. So that's the power of yarning circles. If we think back, mainstream societies always also practice yarning circles, but not, I guess, in the way that we practice it, in the intimate and spiritual aspect of it. But it happens organically. And an example I use is growing up in primary school and high school. There have been times in classrooms where the teachers come in and have pulled all the tables away, said, look, pull all the tables back. We're going to sit in a circle today. They're the best lessons. They're the best classes because you're seeing each other, you're engaging each other, you're connecting with each other. Everyone's having an opportunity. It's not like being in a normal class setting where the smarter kids are up the front, the kids that feel that they're not as smart are at the back. And, there's this system of communication. In a circle, everyone's equal. There's no judgment around it. So that's the power and strength of yarning circles, is that we can truth tell. And it happens magically that you step into those circles, and it's because, like I said, is that you come there with baggage, you come there with an attitude. Some come there with none of that, but they're wanting to learn, they're wanting to change. And you leave with something different. And it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to just meet once and you're going to solve all your problems. That it's an ongoing thing that you have to be patient about, and that you have to work on. And so we have that. And then we have the traditional healing circles where, and it's not my place to talk about what happens in those ceremonies, where we're in a circle and we have our traditional healers come, and someone might have some sort of physical or mental illness or an addiction or whatever it is, and they're healed. And they're powerful that way. And that's the other reason for our circles. We have our informal settings. We have our informal circles where, we'll go back home for, a wedding or sorry business or something, or family or whatever. And all of a sudden, and I've observed this over my lifetime, is that you walk into that space and you see usually all the elders, all the aunties and uncles and grandparents that sitting in a line, and they're all the boss ladies and the boss men, and they're watching over the family and they're monitoring everything that's going on. Then all of a sudden these little groups pop up. The men pull up a chair and they're in a little circle yarning. The sister girls are doing their little thing. And the kids, you don't have to tell them to connect with their family. They just do it automatically. They're playing and so on. And so that happens automatically and organically. And then later on, as the night wears on, the circles get bigger and bigger, and people start pulling up chairs, and they're still eating, they're still enjoying their kai, their food, and then the stories start flowing, and the laughter starts to come, the reconnections, are there, the links reform and relationships strengthened and so on. Everyone starts to laugh. And then the kids are playing, and I did it as a kid. I did this very thing as a kid. The kids are out there playing, you're doing your thing, you're playing, Red Rover or touch football or Tiggy or whatever. And then one of the kids will sort of drift over, and they're tired, they're having a break. And they'll lean against mum or dad, and they start listening to the yarns. They start giggling and laughing at the stories. And then they move into the circle and sit at the feet. They bubble at the feet. They sit down with their legs crossed. They bubble at the feet of their parents, and they start joining in listening. Then slowly other kids sort of drift over as well and say, what's going on here? That laughter's getting really big and loud here. And they come over and have a Doris and have a look. And then all of a sudden they're sitting at the feet of their family, at their parents, or they form their own little circle in that circle. And then they start hearing the yarns, and they start laughing and engaging, and hearing all the old stories, all the funny stories that happen to people who are in that circle. And every now and then you see one of the kids look up at their dad and say, "Hey, Dad, we never knew that story. We never knew that yarn. We didn't know that about you." And the father will go, "Yeah, you weren't supposed to know, but your grandmother's got a big mouth." And everyone has a bit of a laugh about that. So it teaches our kids about yarning circles automatically, that they happen organically, that you don't have to ring up everyone and say, look, we're going to have a yarning circle and we're going to meet at 3 o'clock at Leith's house. Bring some cocoa, bring some food, we're all going to have eat after, but we're going to meet at this time. It's not like that. These informal things happen organically. Just like if you picture it in your own life, whether you're black or white or whatever, when you have a barbecue at your house or you go to someone else's house for a barbecue, all the men are usually around the barbecue, talking all their war stories, checking how good that chef is at cooking that steak, in the back of their mind saying, yeah, I could do better than this lad, but anyway. And the women are, in their little circle cackling and making their salads and doing whatever they're doing, usually making all the healthy stuff that the men don't want to eat. The old people are catching up and yarning about how things aren't the same as the old days, and the cost of living and all the rest, and the kids are playing. So even in general society, yarning circles happen automatically. What I'm talking about is that an extension to that when they become purposeful and there's a reason for it, for healing, education, learning, and so on. So, and like I said, that's the key to these yarning circles is this. It's not yarning, it is listening. That's the key to yarning circles. That's the magic that happens. And that's when the magic happens, is when you listen. So yarning circles are something that happens automatically, and they're powerful. Think about when you attend training, for example, at work or wherever. I've been in training courses where we've done it in a circle, and they're powerful courses because all of a sudden you're sitting in a circle across from your peers, your work colleagues and workmates and so on. And although you've been working alongside these people, right next to you or across from you, it's the first time you really see them. And you start to understand them, and you see their little quirks. You see their, their little habits that they have, and that you've never ever noticed it before. And, other people that you see in the building, but you didn't know who they were, you've now made that connection with them, and that connection stays in place after that. When you see each other in the hallway and all that sort of stuff. So when I've been in training where it's been in a circle situation environment, that it's magical. And our yarning circles aren't like those, where sometimes those training courses will start off with someone reading the ground rules and the house rules, and we're going to respect everyone's opinion. Everyone's going to have their say. We don't do that because it happens automatically when we're in our yarning circles. That spirit takes over. Our spirit connects with us. Our ancestors come, like I said, and things are very, very different when we do our yarning circles for our healing and our decision making and our discussions. And so the yarning circles are real. That they have a purpose. They have a reason. Um, I've done training courses, and I won't say what role I had at the time, but I was working, obviously, another government job, and that we did this little exercise in the course where, we're in our little team, and one person stood up in the beginning and stands in the middle of the room, and other people come up, they're pushing this person and saying whatever they're saying to them, and all of a sudden, and part of the exercise, more and more people stand up and stand side by side with this person until it's actually in a full circle, and we're all linking arms, and there's a power and a strength to it, and all of a sudden it's like, man, no one can penetrate this team, no one can come into this inner circle, no one can break this, and you become a band of brothers or whatever, and you even look at each other differently because we hate that eye-to-eye contact. I hate it when my partner, when we first started going out, and even now, when she, looks at me and eye to eye, it freaks me out because, that's it's true what they say. The eyes are the window to the soul. It's like she can see me, so we get nervous about it and we don't like it. But anyway, in that training course, we were looking at each other, and there's a strength in it, and there's a power in it, and it's even emotional. Like I've had doing that exercise where people just started crying, and obviously they didn't share why it was so emotional for them, but that's the power of strength of circles. And when you get together and you feel each other's energy, you feel each other's power and strength, and it changes and it shifts. After those that little exercise, man, I felt like I could run through a wall. And I knew that if I couldn't make it through that wall, I'd have my team. That my team would have my six, and bang, they'd have my back, and we'd go through that wall together. So there's a power and a strength in yarning circles that strengthens each other, and strengthens you as an individual, where you walk away from it thinking differently. And it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Like I said, it's going to take time. And so these are things that happen. And someone asked me once, about, why it's different. That, we can tell the truth in a yarning circle, but yet when we're at home, we don't want to hear it from our partner or our kids or our family or whatever. And that's because they are close to us, and we don't want to hear it from them. Like when my daughter, one of my daughters, the second youngest daughter in particular, she stands up for her mother and her siblings, and she's a very, very strong woman, and that's how she's been raised. And so when she comes at me with truth and stands up and protects her mother and her siblings or whatever, and says, look, Dad, don't you talk to Mum that way, or whatever it is, bang, that's how it feels. Like, oh, mate, she's just given it to me. She's just run over me in a truck. And I'm proud of her because she has done that. And I got nowhere to go with it because she's right. I shouldn't be yelling and screaming or saying what I'm saying. And she has every right to stand up, no matter what age she is. She has every right to stand up and protect her family. And I'm proud of her for that. And so, we need to embrace that. And I've shared that with others, that that's what happens. And that's how I feel. Not to big note myself and be a hero, but know that they need to know the truth because it's probably happened to them, that their children have stood up to them, and they don't know what to do. And, they yell and scream and want to get that last word in or whatever, and be a hero when their kids are just truth-telling. So that's the sort of strength and power that comes out, where there's this realization of our weaknesses and how, that vulnerability comes out, and we're willing to speak our truth and our emotions and what hurts us, what drives us, what makes us do that. And because we've said it out loud, we hear it. Our spirit is telling us, our soul's telling us, our physical bodies, that this, you need to pull your head in. This is what you need to get out of this. This is what you need to change. So this discussion was just about the power and strength of yarning circles. The organisation, the government agency I work in now, they've introduced yarning rooms, in our offices around the country, and they're driven by our Aboriginal Torres Strait Island staff with support from the department. and they're powerful. And they're not just for Aboriginal staff, they're for everyone. That there is a safe place for people to have these yarns, to have these discussions, have these celebrations, have these, acknowledgements. And it's for everyone. It's not just for Aboriginal people. And that's the power in it. And that's the strength of it, because our culture is your culture. You just don't know it. And everyone is different but the same. And so people can get healed. People become teachable. There's this magic that happens where all of a sudden someone becomes teachable. That they're probably going to say the same things that your partner's been telling you for years, but you accept it. It's like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Because we're too close to it. We don't want to hear our loved ones. It hurts to know that our loved ones feel that way about us. It really does. I'm talking from experience that when my partner and my children are disappointed with me and tell me the truth about their experience and what they see and hear and all that, it hurt. It's hard. It's hard to hear, because the last people you want to hurt is your loved ones. And to hear your loved ones say that's how they feel, that's what hurts. And that's the reason why Yarning Circles exists, is that we have a place to go, that we're not going to have to be diagnosed with medication and all this sort of stuff, that you need this. That is a collective, that you realise that I am not the only one. I am not the only one in the world that does this. And it doesn't excuse the behaviour, it doesn't make it right, but there's this realisation that, yeah, I'm not crazy. I don't have to put the cuckoo back in the clock. That, there are other people that have similar experiences. Or the realisation that, mate, this is what everyone feels. I just thought it was me. So, especially now we live in a strange world. There's a lot of division in the world. There's a lot of depression, anxiety, fear, concern. People want to self-harm, and I've been at that place. And it's selfish, I've been at that place. So, yeah, the Yarning Circles, like I keep saying, that's not the heading of this actual video, was the power and magic of Yarning Circles, is that it is truly powerful. And people become courageous, and you want to change your behaviours, not just for yourself, but for the people around you, especially those close to you. So we in social media, in Facebook, I often see postings from friends and family and that, where they're airing their business on the Facebook, personal, heavy stuff, and there's anger in it, there's bite in it, there's frustration in it, and those people are seeking help. They're asking for help, and in those situations, we can either ignore it and say, "Oh, you're going off on a tangent again," about whatever, or we can reach out to that individual or that person individually or as a group and say, "Hey, sister, we hear you. Hey, brother, you all right?" And I've seen it happen on Facebook, where a friend will post something and then bang, all our other friends that we grew up with in primary school, high school, are all in their corner. And same as the Yarning Circles, that happens organically and automatically, even if they're total strangers. It's like, this person, I don't know him. The only thing in common that we have is that we're black. There's nothing else in common. But then when you start to talk, you realise that you've got more in common than you actually think, and that we're all in the same place. So please, respect Yarning Circles, know that they're real. Now you have a better understanding about them, that they're not just protocols that we've made up or ceremonies that we've made up, that they are there to learn, to heal, to engage, to connect, to teach. And, we become these wounded, these wounded warriors and these wounded healers, that in all these videos I've shared with you, and when I've encouraged you to do something, that's not me being the wise old elf. That's me talking to me and reminding myself that the other things that I need to do. And I just share it because I think it's important for other people to know it as well. But Yarning Circles are very, very powerful. It's like a mirror. It really is. That's how I describe it. Someone asked me, and I describe that as a mirror, that you're not going to like what you see when you go through those healing circles. You're not going to like what you see, those, and because there's honesty in it, there's truth telling, there's all that sort of stuff. And you're not going to like what you see. It's the ugliest mirror you've ever seen of yourself. Reflection mirror. It's the ugliest reflection you've ever seen of yourself. And so, keep that in mind, that it is going to be emotional. It's not going to be easy, but it will change your life. It will give you a different perspective when you look at yourself. So thanks for listening, and thanks for, taking the time out of your day to learn about yarning circles and what they mean, and whether you're black, white, brindle, Asian, whatever. Hopefully you got something out of it. And if you look in your cultures, no matter what your background, you realise that you have the same processes, but you may call them something different. But yeah, a lot of people listening to this will go, yeah, we do that in our culture. We do that. The Samoans, we have that. The Tongans, we have that. Māoris, yeah, we do that. Or whoever. So we're all different but the same. So hopefully that you'll, like all my videos, I talk about two eyes seeing. You'll see it through your lens, and you'll see it through the lens of somebody else. And then we'll have a better understanding about each other and how we can move forward in a better way and be more united than divided. So thank you. Be safe, be happy. The next video, subscribe and like and do whatever you need to do, and share it with family and friends. The next video is going to be about racism, and we're going to, I hate the word deep dive, but we're going to have a deep dive into that. And so please, that's going to be something that's going to be interesting, painful and interesting, but we're going to have a conversation about that as well. So thank you. Enjoy what you're doing. Be safe, be happy, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Okay, talk soon. Bye.